Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am Brandon. It looks like we'll never see J.J. Watt win a Super Bowl Perna. Watt did sign a 2-year, $31 million, $23 million guaranteed deal with the Arizona Cardinals after one of the most bizarre mornings in sports news that I can remember. We woke up thinking that J.J. Watt, via his Peloton account, had narrowed his free agency search down to 3 teams: Cleveland, Green Bay, and Buffalo. Turns out the guy named K.J. Watt on Peloton with nearly 17,000 followers is not actually J.J. Watt breaking free agency news, and instead real verified J.J. Watt on Twitter broke the news with this photo of him lifting in a Cardinals shirt. Between fake Peloton Watt and every sports media outlet predicting J.J. to sign with the Packers, the Bills, the Browns, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Buccaneers, the Titans, the Ravens, the Rams, the Seahawks, basically any team not called the Cardinals, is proof how broken this system is. Well, my success, also proof of that. What we will talk about today is J.J. Watt, plus the NFL getting ready for its first 17-game season, and Alex Smith, like a true sadist, isn't done playing NFL football, and the Washington football team is not bringing him back. So where will he play this season? Whew, that's good sports. If you like getting your NFL news delivered to you in a barely palatable format, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by Magic Spoon and their 2 brand new flavors, cookies and cream and maple waffle. Now, I recently switched from afternoon to morning workouts, and a protein shake isn't enough to fill me up, so I added a bowl of Morning Spoon to my post-workout meal, which is a perfect way to add a healthy food that contains 0 grams of sugar, 14 extra grams of protein, which my skinny body desperately needs, and 4 grams of net carbs in each serving. So click the link below to get the limited edition flavors of maple waffle and my new personal favorite cookies and cream, and use my code THATSGOOD for $5 off before these flavors sell out. Or you can choose to build your own variety box with flavors like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cinnamon, and blueberry. Magic Spoon is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like the cereal for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Just don't try and return cereal you've already eaten. Now, I've been covering NFL news very closely here on YouTube for several years now, and I still don't know how this shit works. Peter King reported that the 17th NFL game is highly likely to be added this upcoming football season. I already thought this was a done deal. Like, they already agreed upon a 17th game, and everyone was expecting the 2021 season to have 17 games. Did anyone think this was a decision not already made? The season will not start any earlier. Instead, it will be pushed back a week, so we will see a mid-February Super Bowl, which I see causing 0 problems for relationships when it lands on February 14th. Valentine's Day. The interesting part is that the extra game will be interconference, which means an AFC team will play and probably beat an NFC team. The NFL's plan is to alternate home games between each conference every year. So in 2021, the AFC will get the extra home game, and in 2022, the NFC. In addition to a 17th game, there's also a chance the NFL could put one of its wildcard games on Monday Night Football, according to Pro Football Talk. Instead of the 3 games on Saturday and the 3 games on Sunday format we saw this last postseason, they would take 1 game from Saturday and put it on Monday. Peter King has called it somewhere between 50-50 and very likely. Here's why I think it's a stupid idea. First, and most importantly, no team wants to have a short week after winning that Monday night game, because once you get past that, you're either looking at a 5 or 6 day week with a chance to play one of the 2 best teams in the NFL coming off of a bye. That's really the only major obstacle. Truth be told, after a weekend of football, an extra game on Monday night might be nice to make sure we don't all succumb to full-scale NFL withdrawal. For NFL fans and for me personally, this is a slam dunk. I'd double my views during wildcard weekend with the best and worst of the weekend games, plus an extra recap of the Monday night extravaganza. So I really don't give a shit what they do. Now, Alex Smith went 5-1 for the Washington football team, and next to the defense was the only reason they made it into the postseason, even though he didn't play in their wildcard game against the Buccaneers. So it makes total sense that the Washington football team doesn't want him back. Smith revealed last week that they didn't even want him to play in 2020, which is beyond messed up. Alex Smith is the most least wanted player in NFL history. Josh Rosen, Tyrod Taylor, and Smith, the holy trinity of quarterbacks whose predecessor was the actual marriage material. Smith let Kaepernick and Mahomes take his former teams to the Super Bowl. Rosen prompted the Cardinals and the Dolphins to draft Kyler and Tua. Tyrod was in Buffalo, Cleveland, and LA, getting the bed warm for Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Justin Herbert. The only problem here is Washington doesn't have their franchise QB yet, and I'm not sure they can get him through the draft. Maybe it's Taylor Heineke, and maybe it's a free agent they acquire, and if they do try and draft someone, they're gonna have to trade up to get that player. Either way, not keeping Alex Smith around after everything he did to get back to play for your team is a great reminder that you as a fan should never, ever side with the NFL as a league or the front office / ownership of a team, because they're all evil. Instead of approaching Smith about maybe a restructure on his $18.8 million 2021 salary, they can just cut him and save $14.7 million. Look, I think Alex Smith should retire. I'm terrified he's going to get hurt again. Knowing most teams that will now pursue him probably want him to be a bridge quarterback at best, and more likely a mentor to a young QB / his backup, means he's risking injury for nothing. He won Comeback Player of the Year because his leg surgeries nearly killed him, not because he was amazing on the field. He looked like a competent QB in Washington, but he was not good. Nobody wants to admit that because of everything he overcame. Smith has been labeled a game manager his entire career, even when he was healthy. But the thing he always had was speed. That was the edge he had on the field, his ability to rush for first downs, and that part of his game is pretty much gone, as you'd expect. Now, since he wants to keep playing, I support Alex Smith. I think there are a few places that make sense for him. His name was immediately linked to the Bears because of his playing time with Matt Nagy in Kansas City. Plus, the Bears have a real knack for finding quarterbacks who won't actually help them win now. The Eagles and the Chargers have also been mentioned as destinations. Both make sense in terms of bringing in your prototypical veteran backup who has been through every situation imaginable to help teach young, promising talents like Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. I like Smith to the Eagles, just so I can imagine Alex walking into the QB room and saying, "Hi, Jalen, I'm Alex, and you don't know shit about what really hurts." Now, I can't remember how Mr. Smith Goes to Washington ends, but I'm pretty sure it's not with the city fucking him over after nearly killing him. Although that's probably more realistic. Now, J.J. Watt, the big story. J.J. Watt to Arizona. Makes sense. Of course he chose to play in Arizona, as it is the knee and elbow brace manufacturing capital of the world. Has to be with all the senior citizens that live there. Before we knew that, though, fake Peloton J.J. Watt fooled everyone from Field Yates to Barstool, leading us to believe he would choose the Packers, the Bills, or the Browns. Luckily, J.J. Watt cleared up the hysteria by tweeting that he doesn't own a bike, which makes sense because the Watt family never taught their kids to ride bikes. Most of us were out there with our neon bike helmets, taking tumbles, skinning our knees as we learned to balance by mastering the physics of the pedal bike. Meanwhile, the only thing the Watt kids had training wheels on were their barbells for deadlifts. This was JJ Watt at age 6. Clearly too big for a normal-sized kid's bike. Plus, his family couldn't afford such luxuries when they were spending $2,500 a month on whey protein and mass gainers for their boys. Do you know how we should have known this was fake? Does JJ Watt look like he rides a fucking bike to stay in shape? You don't get quads that could crush a smart car by cycling. I ride a bike to stay in shape. Do I look like JJ Watt? Do I look like JJ Watt? Do these cycling quads look like they could put Wolverine to sleep by squeezing the life out of him? I don't think so. Fucking. Oh! Now the funniest part of JJ Watt's Peloton saga is that it ended with Watt himself revealing on Twitter that he has signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Apparently, DeAndre Hopkins was like, yo, JJ, losing in Arizona is a lot more fun than losing in Houston was. Sorry, Cards fans, I know you finished 8-8 and I always root for your success, but can JJ Watt elevate you to a team ready for a Super Bowl run? A Super Bowl bike. I'm assuming that in JJ's mind, he wants to get ahead of things and be part of the team that makes a huge leap this year, as opposed to a team that made a huge leap last year. And we obviously know who that team was. Now, JJ Watt joins a Cardinals defense coordinated by Vance Joesph, and those two guys actually know each other from when Joesph was the defensive backs coach in Houston from 2011 to 2013, which were JJ Watt's first 3 years in the league. This Cardinals defense was already pretty strong last season, 12th best in points allowed and 13th best in yards allowed. Watt will play on the other side of Chandler Jones, who missed 11 games last year, and could have Hassan Reddick behind him, who had a very quiet 12.5 sacks, but is currently an unrestricted free agent. Assuming those guys can stay healthy, which is a massive if, and depending on whether or not Patrick Peterson returns, also a free agent, this could turn into a top 10 or, optimistically speaking, maybe a top 5 defense. A great defense would help Kyler Murray, but he too has to prove he can stay healthy and, more importantly, raise his level of play when facing good defenses. Murray started every game last year but wasn't really as effective after injuring his shoulder against the Dolphins. But let's assume year 3 Kyler Murray is even better. There's a lot of talent in Arizona, and they could bring in another Texan in wide receiver Will Fuller to round out that receiving core. Just as long as they don't succumb to Jack Easterby and make him the owner of the team, this is a solid move for the Cardinals in a very tough division that needs to be physical up front on the defensive line. Now, I can't imagine how betrayed Buffalo Bills fans feel right now. We believe they were a leader in the 3 or 4 team race for JJ Watt, and instead, he signs with the Kyler Hale Murrays, the team that gave them their most heartbreaking loss of 2020. Remember, the Chiefs beat them in 2021. This, of course, is the knife twisting in the Bills' wound that Watt and the Texans jabbed into their ribs back in the 2020 postseason, bouncing them from contention that year. So, early prediction, Bills, Cardinals, Super Bowl. Even though I don't think Watt makes the Cardinals good enough to get to the Super Bowl, this storyline for revenge for the Bills, too perfect. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. I'm on Twitter if you want to talk football there, at Brandon Perna. Instagram, at BenchwarmerBrew. My coffee company, BenchwarmerBrew.com. If you like coffee, check it.